Hello and welcome to the Permaculture Vine podcast, to our episode 95, I think it is, live stream with Permaculture Canada. I'm your host, Cormac Harkin, and we've got Lindsay and Graham here from Permaculture Canada. We're missing a guest at the minute, but I'm sure he'll be along soon. How are you guys doing? How are you getting on, guys? Lindsay, Graham, anybody?
Doing awesome. Sorry, I had a little feedback issue there.
Ladies first. Here's Neil. Yay!
Hey, we are live now.
We're live. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's no messing here.
No.
Right, quick round of introductions. Lindsay, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Lindsay Brennan from Permaculture Canada and Arma Garden. I'm in the call here from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Graham Talton, Permaculture Canada Chief Operations Officer in Michigan. And it's sunny today and warm. Yay, finally.
Neil?
I'm Neil Haggerty. I'm from Ireland originally, but I live in Guatemala where we run a farm-to-table restaurant and also a permaculture design and education company.
Great stuff.
Awesome.
And I'm Cormac, Northern Ireland. So, how's things going anyway? Have you been up to much, Neil? The last episode we had was Neil's episode. Don't know if you've seen that. That was the only one this month.
Oh no, I haven't even seen it, Cormac.
Yeah, well, without anyway, it's doing all right. So normally what we do, Neil, is we just do a round robin just to see what everybody's been up to. What they've been up to the last month, what they're up to this month. So we'll just start with Lindsay. Do you want to kick off for Lindsay, what you've been doing this month?
Sure. Yeah, this month it's a heavy focus on PMA agreements with communities and starting to talk to a whole bunch of connections that I have in that sort of field where people are narrowing in on what those agreements look like. That's one thing. Hemp Homes Canada is pretty exciting. So Alberta is one of the biggest producers of hemp in the country. A lot of the biggest exporters of hemp products. So we have a new company called Hemp Homes Canada that's come about. So I did a podcast recording last week with them. I'll be screening that in the next month. But they're looking to open up a large facility to produce hemp tongue and groove blocks that are already being produced in the US, and they have the framing options to build them and everything. So opening up a facility in Canada would be great. Other than that, lots of soil amending, tons of soil amending conversations, and I'm making connections with people in the city. Here we have a place called Regenerative, or it's Highfield Farms. They're a regenerative 17-acre inner city farm. They're in their last year of being funded, but they have a whole bunch of aged mulch and aged hemp straw, and they've got compost clubs. So I've been connecting with, soil producers that are local so that I can source out soil for some of the products or projects that I'm doing here in the city and close to the city. And other than that, I'm going to Saskatoon Farm tomorrow, which is a huge U-pick. Really community leaders over there. They have a lot of festivals. They have a lot of markets. Just a great bunch of people down there, a lot of local farmers. Everyone just gathers there. And I'm looking at doing some plant walks out of there and just going to tour the farm and see how many ways we can collaborate and bring permaculture into the farm. Because they don't have a ton of it going on right now, and they definitely could. So looks like it's going to be a really good place to have a home base just south of the city here. Swoosh. It's been a good bunch of time right now. It's great. Spring is in full force. I love it.
Good on you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, I'll go next. So, in the past month and, what we've got going on here shortly in the future, probably the big project has been the completion of a greenhouse. I've been partially building 3 or 4 different greenhouses at different times over the last 11 years that I've been here. So it's really grand to actually have one fully completed. It's already too hot to be in there for a lot of the things that we're doing. We turned it into our potting shed so we could plant all of our seed trays for all the stuff we need to plant out here in spring. So it's worked great for that. I put all my citrus and olives in there for storage, and it got too hot for those, so I've had to put those outdoors now. The spring has come quickly. But what is the good thing, last year we had a problem where spring came so early. We had really warm temperatures in February, followed by freezes in April, which killed all of our fruiting buds on all of our trees. This year we've had a really, really mild introduction to spring. And so I think I'm going to have probably my best year ever in terms of fruit production. So walking around looking at all my trees and just observing what's going on, we've got probably a record production of cherries. We'll have pears in abundance. We'll have apples in abundance, peaches in abundance. My strawberries are flowering right now and already starting to produce, the first parts of the berries. The asparagus is already up, and we've already enjoyed some asparagus meals here at the farm, which is great. So, everything's looking really good for a great agricultural production year here on the farm. In terms of, permaculture work, I've been doing install work already and done like 5 or 6 days worth of installation work with my local customers here in Michigan. Because spring has warmed up fairly quickly. As soon as the grass gets green, they want me on their sites, and so I've been quite fortunate to be able to get an early start after what's been a long and fairly income-free winter for us here in Michigan. And then some design work. So we've got some local customers that have approached us through Permaculture Canada, and I've completed a design for a lady just on the northwest side of Detroit, and I'll be doing some ongoing consulting work for her. And then some consulting for another person in the same suburb, literally 1.5 miles away from the first one, just both randomly found me through the website. And so that and some site visit work that I've been doing, and we'll have some more site visit work to help folks out in Western Michigan with what could be a fairly large community project on 3 or 4 different properties. So that's a quick trip around the world for me, other than to say last night I did my first farm tour. I had a young couple come in from here in Adrian in Michigan and just wanted to walk around, a couple that my wife introduced herself to, and we gave them a good 2-hour tour of the place, and they're all really excited about planting stuff in their yard. And that's what I love to do most, is get people excited so they can grow their own food. That's it for me for the month.
It's been busy then.
Busy, yep.
Neil, what have you been up to?
Oh my God, quite a lot. So we're just in Guatemala. We're just coming into rainy season. So it's a big transition time, because also it's when we get into kind of low season tourist wise here. So we run a farm to table restaurant, and a community as well. So we have an internship program. So a lot of people, especially during dry season, which is winter back home, a lot of young people come wanting to gain experience. We had a really great season. We had a lot of energy on the farm this year. A lot of people coming, and then suddenly the rains come. People kind of get a little bit sick. They call it mal de mayo, because you get more bugs in the air and summer starts at home. We always get this kind of exodus of people out of Lake Atitlan, which is nice in a way, because it gives us a chance just to slow down. So we're cover cropping a lot of the farm. In the dry season, we grow a lot of, radishes and cherry tomatoes and beets and things, because we're in the tropics, but we're in the highlands. So it's kind of like a strange, it's almost weirdly temperate. But then the rains come, and what we do is we just downsize our team a little bit. And we tend not to have so many interns and volunteers. So we just go down to our kind of core local team. We have 2 greenhouses where we keep growing our salads, which are kind of like our cash crops, and we sell those. And then a lot of the rest of the farm, we just plant sweet potato, squash, runner beans, things that can take the rain and don't really mind it. So sort of just setting up the farm for it's nice. You're kind of able to just go down into a less labor intensive model, and that's a pattern that we've figured out over the years. So that's going well. I'm going to be in a documentary pretty soon, so getting ready for that. There's I work a lot with a girl here who set up a kind of online organic supermarket, which connects organic growers directly to consumers here in Guatemala, and we've done a lot of farmer trainings with her over the years. And now they're coming down to make a documentary about their project, which we're also going to be in. The thing I'm most excited about is I'm coming back to Ireland in a couple of weeks for the third time in like the last 12 years or something. But I'm coming back via Austin. So I'm going to be in Austin at the end of May and the very start of June. We're going to put on an event with a guy who's become a really good friend of mine, a guy called Adrian Grenier. He's kind of sort of a Hollywood actor he's most known for, but he got really into permaculture 5 or 6 years ago. He took a course, an online course that I was a teacher on, and then reached out to me afterwards to thank me. And anyway, we sort of became friends, struck up a friendship. And I talk about this on the podcast, but what we started last year was a school for designers. So a school and an agency for people who want to set up businesses similar to our business here, where we do 3D mapping for people. We educate our clients, build capacity in their organizations, and then help them to come up with designs and master plans without needing to learn graphic design or all of these other kind of things that it took us years to figure out. So we do that for our students. Anyway, one of our students in Austin did a design for Adrian's ranch, which he loved, and then had the classic question afterwards is like, I love the design, how the hell am I going to do this? And so we just, over a kind of conversation one night, we were like, well, why don't I come up there and we'll throw a party and we'll hang out and I can teach you guys how to do this stuff that's really, really actually very easy. And hopefully you and your family and your, immediate neighborhood and community can kind of like take this information and then like replicate it, because it's a 50-acre property. So we're not going to get the whole thing done in a week, but the plan is to get like enough of it done so that they have a kind of a model that they can kind of continue. And also just to have like a bit of a networking fun time. And so we're going to do that. And then from there, me and my son go back to Ireland for 6 weeks. My wife and our baby stay here because we had some passport issues. So me and my son are going back to Ireland for 6 weeks, which I'm unbelievably excited about because I get to see everyone. And I'm also going to do a bit of a tour of regenerative farms, and I might go and see Cormac and just so that's me.
I better get the garden fixed. No, I'm looking forward to that. That should be a good crack. For that. Yes. So I've seen some of your social media posts. I've seen you on me. Your man, I love that show, Entourage.
Everyone loves that show, Entourage. And he's a fascinating guy. He was, I think living that, probably from what I gather talking to him, a lifestyle not dissimilar to what he was portraying in Entourage, the girls and the fame and the glitz and the glamour, but he had kind of like a real spiritual awakening and really decided that he wanted to, leave all that behind, got married, had a couple of kids, and really, really wants to do something meaningful and valuable in the world, which I'm all about supporting that. So I'm just really excited about that event. And just in general, there just seems to be really, really great things happening. It's really amazing to see, since we started this school for designers, some of the things that people are coming up with. One of our students just started she's starting a business in LA where she's teaching permaculture to kids in schools in LA by actually getting them to take part in the designs of the spaces. And it's been amazing. Her students have just been like, her 13, 14-year-old students have been like turning in these designs that are like so much better than like what the professional landscape architects are doing. So really great to see all that.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Is that course like a full PDC, kind of like structured in a similar way, or?
Yes, it is, Lindsay. What I think I finally came to after years of working in permaculture is that I sort of set myself the challenge of, I want to be able to teach a PDC to someone in like 2 hours. Because when I started, I noticed like that, I used to love talking about metaphysics and natural patterns and soil science and microbiology. And eventually I was just like, people are just getting confused and overwhelmed. And while it was very necessary, and maybe is necessary on some level, to understand that kind of foundational stuff, I actually think that if you really look at permaculture design principles and the scale of permanence, that it's really a blueprint that allows people to design an ecosystem in an effective, efficient way. And I consider it to be my job to simplify that whole process for people, because the part that was harder for me to figure out was actually building a business, our farm and our farm to table restaurant and our design and consultancy company, that allowed me as a permaculturalist to live sort of with a level of financial freedom and ease. And so I would say it's a 50-50 split between permaculture design and business coaching. Because I think, I'm sure you guys would agree with this. I think what we have is an incredibly fast-growing market. I think people all over the world want to live in, they want to have clean, they want to have organic food, they want to have beautiful spaces, they're concerned about climate change, et cetera, et cetera. And I think permaculture design potentially solves all those things. But what there hasn't been, I think, up until recently is just a very good and clear business model that allows people to do that. So it took me 15 years to figure it out, and I think I can kind of explain it to people in about 3 or 4 months. So that's what we're doing there.
Yeah, that's great.
Great. We'll go back to Lindsay. Lindsay, you mentioned the PMA, Private Members Association.
Correct.
Right. Just in case anybody doesn't know.
Yeah, that's a wormhole for sure. I'm jumping into, and this is not something I claim to be a specialist in by any means. But I'm very fascinated about the differences between people's belief systems around creating these systems, the different structures that they're looking at, how they're operating. For me, it's really coming up because we're doing community projects. And when it comes to having community purchasing land together, what that looks like and what's in those agreements, I think is very important to make sure that you're checking all the boxes of potential outcomes ahead of time. And through going this process, I'm finding out that, sorry, I've got a chat up here going, asking me some questions. It's called PMA, Private Members Association is what that stands for. And shout out to Lily and Datawa and Foxy Nettie. Thanks for joining us. So where was I? On the PMA agreement, checking all the boxes, purchasing land together. Oh yeah. So what I'm finding through asking all these questions is I see a recurring pattern in people that are working with communities that haven't had success. And then there's some that have. And I've seen a common thread in why those problems are occurring. And I think that there's opportunity for us to start thinking about community in a different way. I think commonly people are thinking, oh, we're all going to buy this piece of land together and we're going to create an agreement and we're going to cut it up and everybody's investing in this way. But I think that there's room to think about communities where people are purchasing their own land, not necessarily all together, but generating community where they already are. So, that is actually going to make the agreements part fall away, which is interesting enough. But I'm starting to see where it's like the ideal method of this, the benefit of this is people just getting back to community, right? People just actually knowing their neighbors. And I think that, without having to go down the rabbit hole of, all the potential problems that could come up through a mutual investment, I think it's important to just start giving people tools to reach out to their local community and create community, regardless of buying the land together and doing all of that, because that's ideally what we need more of, right? Is people bridging their resources together, knowing who their neighbors are, go ask, like, remember when we were kids, right? You go to the neighbors for a cup of flour. Like, we got to bring that kind of stuff back. And the tool shares and all the things that we can put into community development ideas, we can also create some sort of parameters to give people the tools on, okay, well, we want this community feeling, but we don't know how to generate it. So where do you start? So that's something that I've been inspired to start brainstorming on through these conversations with PMAs. Another thing that's come up is that there's very big differences between belief systems on these people that are creating programs around PMAs, and they don't always agree with each other. And that's really interesting, I find. So I'm excited to have all these different guests and to hear their different viewpoints and how they're operating in their different organizations to do what they do. And some of them are not organizations. Some of these are just people that have really jumped into the lawful versus legal language and want to understand that for themselves. So anyways, it's 2:22. I'm going to stop rambling on that.
Can I just come in? Can I just come in on that as someone who lives in a eco community?
You betcha.
I totally agree with everything you said about the shared investment. What happened? It's why we started the School for Permaculture Designers, because what happened here with us is we bought a piece of land, beautiful piece of land in a lovely part of Guatemala. But when we bought it, there were very few expats. There was very little expat community, and we started working as permaculture designers and back then project managers. But little by little, at the start, we were very involved in the implementation. Later, we just kind of tended to work more like kind of guides and do a bit of mentorship and a bit of, like, oh, you just bought land. Listen, if I was you, I'd do this, this, and this. And, little by little, we stepped back from the project management. But organically, what happened was we created a very, very solid eco community where, through our design projects, we turned about 20 to 30 acres of land so far in this community into edible food forests. We have a complete abundance of resources. We have a farm to table restaurant. Our closest neighbors have a food fermentation lab. Our very close neighbors and extremely close friends have an apothecary. So there's just such an amount of resources, and different people are starting different kind of spin-off businesses with all the abundance that's there. And often I listen to these kind of like really far out plans for, oh, we're going to buy and we've got all these investors and we're going to do this. And I'm like, can I just show you something? Can you just come for like, and I'm like, that thing you're talking about, we kind of have it here. We're all bringing our kids up together and we've got a farm, but it's like, it was not as complicated as what you're trying to do. And so I'm not saying don't try and do it, but like look at a more simple organic model before you go off doing like a multi-million-dollar project that you have no roadmap for.
So did you all purchase land as a group? No?
Nope.
So you all have your own individual properties?
Yeah. And we're nice to each other, and we're and we do what you say. It's like we save, like, I'm psyched because it's like the whole town is like a living nursery. It's like anytime I need cuttings of something, it's like there's someone there. We all have gardens, so we all have our own little seed boxes. So we trade seeds. We would just the normal thing, the normal thing that people always actually used to do. And then I hear these people being like, "Oh, we've come up with this NFT model and crypto," and I'm like, I don't understand you. And I'm pretty smart, but I don't understand you. And
I came up with my own reason for the NFT acronym. It's called Not Fucking Changeable, because I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It looks like we have a mutual friend, Colin Millsey's on the call. He says, "Is this Neil from Granja in Zunana? My old neighbor?" I probably said that wrong.
Yes,
Colin, your voice is kind of going.
Oh no, really? Still?
Oh, it's getting back. It's getting a little better there. Yeah. Okay. Well, he's saying hello.
I couldn't agree more with the need for community and letting it happen organically. One of the things that I used to do was to get onto the Global Eco Village Network literally 20 years ago and see what was going on with intentional communities. And for as many new ones starting up, there were as many shutting down because they couldn't reach a position of consensus on what would be their model for either finances or political leanings or spiritual leanings. And one of the things that's always been really, really fundamental to me with permaculture is that it doesn't depend on a political system or a spiritual belief system in order to implement it. And I try really hard to keep those two aspects out of permaculture. And I think, unfortunately, that there's still people who want to bring those things in and say, okay, well, let's have this particular type of group over here where we can all, be the same and do everything together. And then, one or two people within that group will come up with, some idea that doesn't meet with everybody else. And despite the fact that they all have this so-called common, structural belief system, the group fails because they can't agree.
They put the cult in permaculture.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. So Lindsay and I have, seen an example of a good community here in the United States, which isn't based on a single property or a single belief system or a single political leaning, and everybody has their own properties. And the thing that they do, which is really, really good, is and beneficial, is bulk purchasing of resources that they need when they're going to go ahead and do things like renewable energy, or people are going to be doing construction, and so everybody needs lumber. So the examples that were shared with us, which I thought were really positive, like if one person's going to build a house and two or three others are going to build barns or whatever, and everybody needs lumber, they'll go and buy an entire rail car full of lumber, and that gets like a 70% discount compared to retail pricing for lumber. Or if they're going to buy solar power, they'll go and buy an entire sea container worth of solar panels and use that within the community so that everybody's getting the benefit of that pricing discount. So I thought that was very clever. And then, they have, I guess within the community, an arrangement where if one person needs to have a permablitz, as we'd call it in the old days, where everybody's turning up to do something, then, the expectation is that everybody shows up at no cost to do that. And they do the work with the agreement that that person who's hosting the project also then has to provide their time into a project, coming up next. And so there's this recycling of labor that takes place. If somebody benefits from, a project being done on their land by 30 or 40 people showing up, then, they have to contribute a fairly equal amount of that back into the community. So that's a model that I see as successful. And I have seen some others here in the US and also back home in Australia that were successful on the basis of using permaculture as the basis for the community development on single pieces of land with everybody sharing. But they're done under very much different legal arrangements. The United States doesn't really have a good legal vehicle for shared property. And so, I think that's the challenging part. And again, going back to your comment earlier, Lindsay, about people, starting to explore the difference between legal and lawful. You've got people at different stages of that journey. And when you try to bring those all together in one community and say, okay, here's a PMA that could be used, or here's a land trust agreement that could be used, you've got some people who still want to see, but okay, how do I own this and where's my title deed? And how do you satisfy those needs for people who are not prepared to go into a PMA or into some other form of agreement that is not really part of the legal system here in the US? So that's really challenging, and I think there's room for us, as permaculture designers, to come up with other systems that can work for people. And I don't know that anyone's really mastered it yet. I've seen some good examples and some bad examples over the last 30 years, and somewhere there's a good model that can work for a lot more people.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more from Neil about, how do you do things like that as well with your community? Are you guys pooling your time as resources?
Yeah, of course. It's like, again, it's just like so much of it is like, for me, about like not working with human nature and not against it, and one of my first permaculture teachers, Shad Kudzi, would always say, don't should on people. Don't tell people what they should think or should believe, or even necessarily try to reimagine how you think society should look, because like you don't know. It's an emergent property, and like stop trying to control it. And we know that people get jealous, and we know that people get resentful, and we know that some people work harder than others, and then we also know that some people don't appear to be working very hard but seem to somehow get a lot done by virtue of being very creative. And so shared projects are just shared land projects where we all own a piece of land, and we're sort of like, we're all working to increase its value. It's almost inevitably going to end in some kind of conflict and tears. And then a lot of people, when they talk about it, they're like, oh, the big problem is conflict resolution. We need to get better at conflict resolution. And I'm like, maybe, or maybe we should just set things up to avoid conflict in the first place, and that's kind of what, I'm all about conflict resolution when it comes to my wife. It's like that's a really important relationship with me, and I really want to work on that and work on myself. But like, really, when it comes to a lot of my friends, I'm just like, can we just like meet for a beer and watch a game of football and hang out and have a good time and not complicate our lives so much? So like, and of course, then it's like, if you have a mature group of people with a collaborative spirit, it's like, yeah, every time I'm ordering a truckload of treated bamboo, I'll be like, hey guys, I got like a bunch of bamboo coming up for the coast. I'm gonna, anyone want some of it? It's actually, it'll be cheaper if we fill the truck. It's like, yeah, like, of course you would do that, right? Like, we kind of pioneered a composting chicken house here, and a lot of our friends now have these kind of composting chicken houses. And one of the inputs for that is hay. So we get like once every 3 or 4 months, we bring a truckload of hay up from the lowlands where they can produce hay. Those kinds of things are like, I think, almost inevitable. But I'm a big believer in like emergence. Like design for emergence is one of my things, and it's like I say, I go back to the reason we started the School for Designers, is because I just think there's so much scope for people to be like, hey, how about I just take the place I already live, and I turn my own lawn into a food forest, and then I see if I can help one of my neighbors do that, and I see if I can help another neighbor do that, and then before you know it, we're all going to have too many apples, and maybe someone will make cider, like, and then maybe the next thing will happen. Instead of like, it's like the Tower of Babylon if you try to do it the other way around and design for every thing. It's like natural, and then I will say it's like 2 years ago, my wife and I bought, like, we were part of a group of families who bought 500 hectares between us in Colombia. The first thing we did was subdivide it, right? So we now own 20 hectares of that. I'm part of a kind of a design group there, and we're helping everyone to design their properties. And I fully intend eventually to zone an area of that farm as residential and to sell lots to people that I like. And that's going to be my business model there. I'm going to be like, yo, there's a farm, that's mine. There's a common area here that everyone's going to have access to. And there's half-acre plots, and it's yours. I'm going to sell you the plot, and you're going to build your own house in it, and I'm going to help you if you want me to. And how am I going to screen people? It's going to be people I like. That's what I do with with our rental properties here. We did Airbnb for a while, and I was like, this is annoying. I don't like this. I'm going to do long-term affordable rentals for people I like on my farm. And that, I think, is a good model.
I like that no nonsense approach to it. If you're not an asshole, I like you. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, we have had problems here working with people, and it's always, to me, the few times that I've fallen out with people, it's the people who are into the non-violent communication and really defining to the T roles and responsibilities, and then all sorts of friggin' hassle. So I think this works in business as well as community.
There's nothing I hate more than people misusing non-violent communication, and like saying, "Well, I just feel," because that's what you're supposed to use, I statements, and then inserting a big long story after that is actually nothing to do with feelings. It's all your thoughts. If you read that book, you can feel angry, happy, or sad. That's it. And people fucking do that all the time here, and they're not allowed in my community. People who do that. Sorry, me and Cormac are Irish. I can always, anytime two Irish people are in a room together, the two Irish people are always laughing, and everyone else is like nervously looking on.
No, but you've got an Aussie and a Canadian in here, and I'm part Irish, so it's like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. How about Lindsay? I think you're muted there. I think you were speaking. You're muted.
Yeah, it's good. I gotta calm myself. I got a dog in the house too. But I was curious with the problems that you faced with the B&B rentals. You were saying it's a pain in the ass. I was wondering if you could go into more on that.
Yeah, it's really just not the model I wanted. So we built we built a guest house on our farm, right? And it's rustic. Let's say it's not chic, but it's rustic, and I just didn't like it. It's like a big turnover. And eventually what we decided to do is we have like a kind of a dorm shared area, and our interns stay there, and people who come and intern tend to stay for 1 to 3 months. And then the other houses, we've just found that so many people, because we're in a kind of a touristy area, so many people go for the short-term high money, but we just found that life was much easier if we went for long-term, and we just went for affordable, normal prices. And it means we just have very kind of nice community here. And then we have a farm to table restaurant and a kind of a co-working space, so people can hang out, do some work, and then we have a store and a kitchen. So a lot of the business model in our farm is we don't just grow food for our own restaurant. We also distribute organic food from other farms. So people who live here can, they can buy affordable organic food straight from farms. We're the only middleman in that process, and it just ended up making for a much more kind of stress-free life. As opposed to like an Airbnb guest being like, "There's an ant in my room, and I left you a bad review now," and I'm like, "Oh God," like,
Yeah.
you know.
So I think you were telling me as well on the podcast that some of the design you work, and then they started creating an income. They also feed on the sell stuff at your shop as well, don't they? Things like that.
Yeah, so like a lot of my thing was like removing barriers, right? So like a lot of the time now when I work with clients in Guatemala, I'll do the master planning for them, right? So like, make the map and do the zones and all that kind of stuff. But what I actually found what they most needed help with was getting some income generating projects off the ground early doors. And so I basically focused a lot on that. I was just like, look, I'm going to give you, if you're my client, I'm going to give you access to my online permaculture design course. I'm going to map out your land and do a kind of a site analysis. And then while we're doing our fancy drawing, what I'm really going to do is I'm going to help you get like a cash generating project off the ground. And sometimes that's free range pigs. Sometimes it's usually animals, right? Sometimes it's goats, sometimes it's chickens. And then I'll also help to connect you with a market. So sometimes the market is our farm and store. And sometimes the market, I have a really good friend of mine who has like an online supermarket. So she's built a kind of a system for connecting consumers directly to farmers. And so I connect them with her because what I really noticed was that it's like, what you absolutely don't want to happen is for your farm to turn into like a black hole of money, right? And in the early days when I was into permaculture, I was like, I still remember this. I think I told Cormac this story. Like I had learned all about like the syntropic agroforestry and, you just chop and drop and you plant all these different species and you get out there and I went to this one big coffee farm and the farmer was like, "Yeah, God, it's tough. Like coffee prices plummeted. I'd like to be more organic, but like right now I sprayed the understory with herbicide to just stop the, weeds covering over everything." And then I wasn't even listening to him, right? I was just like, "Oh, you should plant more inga and bananas, and you should, instead of like having this like boring overstory, you should diversify it, and you got to start doing." And I started explaining like soil microbiology and how he was killing it by spraying. And he just stopped me and he was like, "Wait, like stop. I just told you my farm is losing money. And now if I implement everything you just told me, my labor bill is going to increase by like 50 times. Like I thought you were a consultant. This isn't helping at all." And then I suddenly hit me. I was like, "Oh shit, like he's right. How the hell?" And and that was 10 years ago. And so I guess like for the last 10 years, I've been like trying to solve that problem of like, how can I actually help people to genuinely switch instead of just coming and being like, "Fucking do all this stuff that I read in a book." That like.
I've got a question here. Colin's wondering if you can share the online supermarket post, or like where can people find that? Is that up and going yet? Or
Yeah. That's for Guatemalan people, right? So that's cincoazul.com.
Did you get that, Colin? Maybe you can drop it in the chat.
Is that biochar, Colin? How do I rocket science, Colin? Is that what I'm talking to?
Sorry, your speaker's away there, Neil. Are you on a mobile phone?
No, I'm on. Hang on, let me.
But you can type it on the. If you go to comments, you can type it in the comments yourself. The link. So What is that again? Cinco Sol?
cincoazul.com. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I've got that now. I'll put it on the chat here. So for you guys, he's my. I think that'll go to your own links as well.
Cormac, is my audio better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, let's do that then.
Yeah, I think it just drifts now and again. But the topic's very interesting, so I'm sure people keep listening.
Good.
Yeah. So you're coming to Ireland then? What's the plan? You said you're going to go on a tour.
I'm going to go on a bit of a tour. I don't have any fixed plans. I want to go. There's a few people that I've kind of made friends with, I guess, over Instagram and Zoom over the last couple of years. So I'm hoping to put on maybe one or two events, maybe host a couple of events where we can get some work done and learn some permaculture in the process. And I'm really coming back because I think Cork are going to win the All Ireland, so I want to be there for that.
So was that hurling or Gaelic?
Hurling. I'm
Nice.
a hurling guy.
Yeah.
I've been a long step. We haven't won it for 20 years. We haven't won it since I used to live in Ireland. So I think that's the missing link.
Yeah. Well, I don't really care. But for anybody who's not watching, if you Google GAA and hurling, you'll see what Neil's on about. It's probably the maddest sport in the world. And the goalkeeper has to be the maddest position of anybody in the world.
Yeah, hurling goalkeepers are really insane. But no, I'm so I guess I'll give you a bit of it's exciting. So my wife and I have 2 children, and we also adopted my wife's nephew this year. So this year I went from 1 kid to 3 kids, but we haven't. Samuel, who's my wife's nephew, he's not ours. He's not we're not his legal guardians yet. My wife is from Colombia, I'm from Ireland, and our kids are from Guatemala. So there's a few kind of visa thingies, sort of complications. So what we decided to do this year is my wife is going to go back to Colombia and see her family and bring our beautiful baby daughter, Coral, back to her. Coral is 9 months old. And I'm going to bring our little 4-year-old Tasmanian devil with me. He's going to come with me to Austin, and we're going to put on this event in Adrian's place. And then me and him are going to fly from there to Ireland. And so I'm going to be with him, basically. And I'm currently, I would say, open calendar, looking for fun things to do, as long as it doesn't clash with the Cork hurlers playing.
Well, the Irish Permaculture Network are meeting at the end of August. I don't know if you're going to miss that.
Oh, I'll miss that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely doing. There's definitely one event penciled in. We're going to do an event with Brendan Guinan from Fior Via Farms. I don't know if you follow him. He's doing really interesting stuff in the regenerative agriculture sphere. But I booked my flights last night, so I'm only just now starting to message people and being like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you anyway.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Cool.
I'm always nervous going to Antrim. They always treat me weird because I have a Cork accent.
I'm in Derry.
Oh, you're in Derry. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah, so we're complete opposite ends of the island.
Yes.
But yeah. But if you don't get up, I'll definitely get down.
I know. I'd say I'll get up all right. Yeah, no. Like I say, I'm planning on doing a bit of a trip. My brother and sister have a kind of they run a theater company they call Candlelit Tales. So they do Irish storytelling, and they're feckin' brilliant. So I'm hoping to kind of put on a couple of permaculture storytelling events with them. That's anyone who's into mythology and storytelling. Check out my brother and sister. They have a great podcast. They retell all of the like Irish myths, and it's just it's a treasure trove of wisdom and just really great.
Yeah, I just dropped the link there in the description. For everyone wants to check it out. So what's Permaculture Canada going to be up to this month? What's on the horizon?
I kind of gave you my rundown in the beginning. Like, I'm really just hitting the pavement locally, right? Because I've been working so much online and traveling all over the place for so many years. I'm like, I am buckling down into my hometown. So really just visiting the farmers around here that I'm aligned with, and visiting friends that have projects in the outlying areas, biochar projects, hemp building projects, working with the Trochu Arboretum, which is a 100-year-old garden. So I'd like to help them expand their current design and map out what they already have, create some educational opportunities for the community to learn from visiting the Trochu Arboretum, as well as doing a design for their back end where they could potentially do plant sales and have a nursery, because they got a big open meadow that's not really currently utilized, and it's got a nice shelter block around it. So working on that and doing some smaller scale things for people in the city, just smaller gardens, right? Encouraging native species, encouraging pollinator belts, getting people rigged up with rainwater capture, helping them source hemp straw and good soil amendments, don't go to Home Depot kind of thing. And then also offering education. So Highfield Farms does a lot of different educational opportunities, and really anybody in the regenerative field here in the city that I'm in is working through the Highfield Farms location. My partner and I are looking at doing an event there. We just moved our school bus there. So we're going to bring the espresso machine down, bring the waffle maker down, set up a DJ booth, and also have some education. So have a few different people offering short workshops on perhaps mycology, tincture making, that sort of thing, how to build soil, how to assess your soil, and then also have, nice drinks and good tunes. Yeah.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah. It's for the day at a time.
Yeah. Graham, what have you in the plans for this month?
Yeah, well, just really it's a follow-up to a thing I attended down in Indiana in the last month. There's a church group that is looking to put together a community property, and we're helping them to identify their property. So I got to touch base with them and see where they're at with their fundraising for their land purchase, and then help them with the next steps of that. We've been shortlisting properties and stuff on the different real estate websites, and then helping to qualify those from a permaculture perspective, and also to meet the needs of their community for avoiding things like high voltage transmission lines and stuff like that running through their property. So that's one thing that we'll be working on. Here at the farm, last year I planted 1,000 raspberries and 1,000 asparagus plants in April and May and June of last year. And so this year will be follow-up on all of those. I'm trying to create like a permaculture-based market garden, where instead of rows of lettuce and cabbages and carrots and all the rest of it, it's rows of perennial plants, all combined in a permaculture fashion. So if you imagine having asparagus in rows, what else can I grow underneath them? So I got strawberries, and I've got garlic, and I've got daylilies and a few other things in these rows. So I'll be trying through this spring and into summer to try to flesh that out a little bit more and put some more, different types of plants into those rows. And ultimately, my goal is over the next 3 to 5 years is try to demonstrate the economics of those, so that people can say, for this much land, what can I produce economically, but using permaculture principles to do it? Because one of the things that Lindsay and I encounter a lot is people who want to do permaculture. They've got a commercial farm, but then they want to know, okay, what's it going to make for me money-wise to pay back the investment that they're going to make? So I'm hoping to be able to put together a model to demonstrate that for lots of different crops that I've been growing on my place. And, the next 2 months, of spring is the best time to get all those things in the ground. So I've got a lot of propagation that's going on for that purpose. And then, it's springtime, and so all my customers are coming out of the woodwork. Lindsay and myself have done designs now for 3 local customers here in my hometown, and they're all looking for support on the landscaping work. So I'm going through the process of putting quotes together for them for all of the landscaping. And then myself and my farm manager, Julia, are going to get after it. We'll probably have, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15 days of install work to do here in the next month, with somewhere between 7 and 10 customers, depending on who all comes out of the woodwork at the right time. So a busy month in front of us, which is great. We like that. And then I'm sure that will continue all through spring and summer.
Great stuff. So for me, I have a couple of podcasts, and I've got Dave Spicer coming up. Mitch Rollins, who Lindsay knows up in Canada. I think you done the tour of his property there.
Moose's Groovy Grove.
Yeah. So I've recorded. Yeah.
Mitch has become a good friend of mine as well. Actually, he does. He helps us with a lot of mapping for our projects. His mapping service is brilliant. Like, he's a fantastic resource, I think, to the whole permaculture community. So, psyched that you're getting him on there.
Yeah, that's recorded. It'll be the next episode out. I just need to edit it. I recorded it and took a couple of weeks off. It's been a slow month. And then for me now, I have to get my garden looking pristine and all my systems in place for my nail visits.
I'll be judging you so hard.
Yeah, so I'll just feed him full of Guinness and he'll not notice. Yeah. Bottle of whiskey, Neil. Yeah. So that'll be good. Yeah, and we have a few exciting partnerships we have signed, but I'm not sure if I can mention them yet, but we'll chat about them next month. So that's a bit of a teaser there. So looking forward to making more progress on that, and hopefully working with Neil. Just need to get things sorted out as well. So anybody got any questions for everybody? Anybody? Anything else you want to talk about?
When can I come see you, Neil?
Whenever you want, Lindsay. It's been lovely meeting you guys. So yeah, I'll be coming back to Guatemala in August, and I am really, really interested in collaborating with people to put on more events and retreats and courses here next season. So that's something we could talk about. I'm always available for a Zoom coffee date if you want to talk about some of that stuff. And it sounds like there's, I'm sure, a bunch of things we could collaborate on, and that goes for you too, Graham. Graham, I'm like can you share? I can do it. I can share my Instagram maybe in the chat here. And on the off chance, if you're around, if you could pop down to Austin in May at the end of this month, that would also be another great opportunity to do networking and see what we can cook up. I know it's sort of short notice.
We were just down there, literally in March, and so, yeah, I mean, we like Austin, obviously. It's a great place, and, we got lots of contacts that we developed when we were down there. So maybe, Lindsay, we can rustle up some people that we met down there and see if we can follow up on some of that to make it a paid trip for us to be down there. So we'll see.
And Neil, you'll be happy to know Formidable Vegetables in Ireland at the same time you are. He's doing Glastonbury in June, and I think he's coming to Ireland a few weeks before that.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
So I have agreed. He has agreed to come on the podcast. I just haven't got a date in for him yet as well. So hoping to meet him in person in June.
Well, yeah, maybe we can do an in-person episode when I'm home as well. That could be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. And guys, that's us. Thanks very much. That's us at an hour. And for those listening, thanks very much. And we'll catch you on episode 96 coming soon. That'll be out next week.
Yeah, are we all in the Telegram group together, Graham? Do I have that right?
I think we might be. I mean, Cormac and Lindsay and I have one for all of our podcast work that we do together.
Yeah, you're in the Vine Designers.
There you go.
Telegram group. But if he's hang on after this, we'll just end the live stream and we can chat then.
You bet.
So, guys, thank you very much. If everybody just wants to do a round robin quickly, where people can find you, so you can find me at permaculture.com. Thanks for listening, guys. Lindsay?
Yeah. You can find me at permaculturecanada.world and on all the things at Permaculture Canada for socials.
And Graham? You can find me in the same place as Lindsay. My local landscaping business is Permaculture Adventures MI for Michigan.com.
Neil?
And you can find us at creasolpermaculture.com.
And all the links will be in the description. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next week or next month for June. Where Graham, who do we have on?
It'll be Steve Kuntz from keepitwater.com. He's a specialist in indoor gardening with aeroponics and hydroponics equipment.
So great stuff. So that's a good time as well. I'll give you a couple months to get prepared for the winter when you can grow stuff indoors.
You bet.
All right. Cheers, guys.